Hey, pastors and leaders, let's talk about what is a discipleship culture. Now, hopefully you understand what a culture is. Every church, every organization, every family has a culture. A culture is just sort of what you do, what defines you. So you might have a culture of sharing, or you might have a culture of loving, or you might have a culture of passive aggression. You might have a culture of gift giving. So that's what a culture is. Everyone has a culture. A good thing to do for you and your church is to ask, well, what is our culture right now? What are some of those things that would define our culture? Well, a culture of discipleship is a place where it is the norm in your church for people to make disciples. That's what a culture of discipleship is. So a culture of discipleship in a church is where it's not unusual. If you were to go into a family, into a home, you would see discipleship happening in that home. If you were to go visit a small group in your church, you would see discipleship happening in that small group. If you were to go and maybe eavesdrop or be a fly on the wall for a conversation between two people at your church, that there would be discipleship happening in that conversation. So if your church has a culture of discipleship, and hopefully you want it to have that, but it takes some time to develop. If your church has a culture of discipleship is happening in your church. Okay, so what is discipleship? Well, here's how we like to think about it. Discipleship is where people are helping people pursue God. That's what discipleship is. So if I'm going to disciple somebody, that just means that I'm going to help that person pursue God, help that person pursue Jesus. We like to use the word mentoring. Jesus used the word disciple making, but that's what we're talking about here. And the way we talk about that, the way we define that is where conversations are happening, because that's really what discipleship's all about. It's about having a culture where people are having conversations with one another. It's normal for people to have conversations that are challenging them, encouraging them, spurring them on to pursue God. Okay, so real quick, what do we mean by pursuing God? Pursuing God takes three things. It takes trusting Jesus. That's how we start our pursuit of God. It takes honoring God in our everyday lives as Christians. That's how we continue to live in our lives as Christians. And then the third thing is, in a pursuit of God, is that you're actually out there helping other people to do the same thing, to trust Jesus, to honor God. So that's what we mean by a pursuit of God. What defines a disciple? A disciple is someone who is trusting Jesus, honoring God, and helping other people trust Jesus and honor God. So in your church, you have a discipleship culture if people are not only doing those first two things, but people are doing the third thing as well. They're trusting Jesus and honoring God, and they're helping other people trust Jesus and honor God. You have a culture of discipleship in your church if that is organically happening sort of at every level. Now, we like to talk about the discipleship infrastructure in a healthy church, and that is three things also. That is, you've got individuals doing it. We call those mentors. You've got families doing it. So in the discipleship infrastructure, you've got mentors and you've got parents who know how to disciple their kids. Pastors, it's not your job to disciple kids and youth. It's the parents' job. So if you want to have a culture of discipleship in your church, you have got to equip the parents to do it. Okay, so that's the second leg of that infrastructure. And then the third thing is small groups. So small groups should be set up in your church where discipleship is actually happening. So that's the infrastructure. You can learn more about that in our infrastructure series in our library. But it's mentors, it's parents, and it's small group leaders. Those are the three sort of key leadership positions where if those people know how to disciple people in their world, then a discipleship culture can actually take root. Now, after having said all of that, that's why we have the PursueGOD.org library set up, because everything in there is set up to empower those people to have intentional conversations about just about any topic that they can think of to help people pursue God. So that's what a discipleship culture is, and that's how our resources online can help you to establish it.